Barack Obama 5 years ago and Bill Gates. They talked 5 years ago in their TEDx talks and in their major speeches about pandemics, being very likely and being very regular over the next 20 years. So if we'd been using the technology well, we may well have been able to predict it. So the better we can track it, the better we can predict it. So if you can analyze news reports, analyze social media.
Hi all, welcome to Engati Engage. Today we have the pleasure of welcoming Katie King to our interview series. I'm Drishti Shah from the Engati team, and let's begin with just a quick intro of Engati. Engati is the world's multilingual no-code chatbot platform, available across 14 channels with 25,000 bots created across 186 countries in every domain and use case. Engati has also been recognized as a top platform by INC, Tech World, CIO, and many others. We run the Engati blog, video channel, and the Engati Engage podcast, receiving upwards of 300,000 visitors annually. And now for our guest. Katie King is the CEO of AI in Business. Additionally, she is a board advisor, a published author, a keynote speaker on artificial intelligence and digital transformation. She is a member of the UK government all-party parliamentary group task force for the enterprise adoption of AI and the author of Using Artificial Intelligence in Marketing, How to Harness AI and Maintain the Competitive Edge. With over 30 years of experience, she has advised many of the world's leading brands and business leaders, including Accenture, PA Consulting, Orange, Arsenal Football Club, and Harrods. So hi, Katie, we are really thrilled to have you on Engati.
Thank you so much. Greetings from the UK. I'm pleased to be here.
Yeah. So before we get the inside scoop from Katie herself, here's a quick announcement. We have something special for all of you, so stick around till the end of the interview.
Intriguing.
So starting with the first question that I have for you is that given your experience, what do you believe lies in the future of conversational intelligence?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the truth is with any technology, we can read statistics, and I see lots of statistics from Delloite and Forrester and Accenture. Nobody really knows, and it's dependent on so many factors. But I think what it really means, what conversational intelligence really means, is that we need to automate administrative tasks. And let's take an example of an AI platform that's helping human resources teams and talent teams. And I know one that recently got a lot of funding called Paradox. So what they do is they're helping these teams to automate their admin tasks and to deliver in real time candidate and employee information. And so if you think about it, whether you're going into, let's say you graduate and you go into accountancy, or you go into the law, or you go into marketing or HR in this example, you don't go into it because you love screening CVs and scheduling information for interviews or managing paperwork.
Yes.
And so I think what conversational intelligence does for all kinds of job functions in all kinds of sectors in every country in the world is automate and give back to people, or even young people that are coming into their first jobs, the opportunity to do much more interesting and much more strategic work. So I think what that then does for the company, it can decrease costs and it can increase revenue. And it's really about as a tool, as a piece of technology, conversational intelligence becomes critical to that resilience of that organization and their long-term success. So they would be some of the main points I would say there.
That's right. Completely agree. So it's like basically automating all these tasks where we are spending a lot of amount of time, where we could focus on bigger tasks where the machines do the mundane tasks for us. Yeah,
absolutely. And another good example, let's say some of your listeners and viewers and readers are maybe not in business or are in the third sector or are still students. Let's take driving. And what I understand, certainly in Europe, that about 30% of all of the car crashes and the collisions that drivers have are because of this distraction of actually, touching the in-vehicle information systems. And voice automated systems using conversational AI mean that can be reduced, that distraction can be reduced. And so, up until now, it's just been, the beginnings of it is voice activation. But if you start to take it to the next level and you use conversational AI, you're really enabling a speech interface that can operate in a much more complex way and much more simply. So voice control just gives you those simple set of commands, but the conversational AI makes that much more easy, so that you've got dialogue, it can be understood in different languages, it's versatile, and it's very natural. So that's just a really good example of it, in that sense too.
That's a great example. I completely agree. So, what challenges do organizations currently face in harnessing AI and maintaining the competitive edge?
Yeah, again, another really good question. So what I'm going to do is just share with you, I'm just going to share my screen and share with you a slide. So as you mentioned kindly in your lovely introduction to me, I've written a book on the impact of artificial intelligence on business. And the book, it's my views, but more importantly, it's the views of major brands all over the world, small businesses, dozens of technology disruptors, academics, politicians, and so on. But my conclusion and some of my, almost like my methodology and my advice throughout the book gets summarized into this, what I call a scorecard for success. So to your point about, the challenges, they fall into some of these 10 areas. So the first, I'll go through them really, really briefly. Number one, do you have the right agile, open mindset for AI? Now, you could actually replace this and say, any future technology change, any future change management related to, heaven forbid, a future pandemic. So do you have the right mindset to cope with this change, the openness and so on? Number two, do you have the buy-in from the management team, from the board? Three, have you produced a business case, or are you just jumping on the bandwagon in a very tactical way? Four, you need to do proof of concept, proof of value. Five, collaborate internally, interdepartmental. Number six, do you have the right resources? Do you outsource it? Do you reskill? Do you insource it? Number seven is really important. And it's a challenge facing a lot of people when they want to embrace this kind of technology. Is their culture ready for it? Number eight, are they innovative and agile enough? Number nine is so important. What's the wider business impact? And here I mean regulation, funding, transparency, ethics, and all those key things. And then the final one, is their roadmap in place? So, that's what I would recommend are really some of the big challenges that are, facing companies at the moment when they're saying, are we ready to take this on board? No, maybe we're not. We're not ready. We don't have the right skills. We haven't factored in budget. We don't know who the vendors are. It's very, very complex.
Right. I think the right amount of research, and I think the most important one I feel is the business case right now, because people are just want to go ahead and adopt it because they want the people in the market to know that they are doing this particular, like integrating with a particular technology, but in fact they are not, and it kinds of hinders the customer experience also.
You're absolutely right. Yep, completely.
Yeah, so thank you for that. I think that whole flow chart, or I think the summary, can give the organization an idea on how they should go forward when adopting any new technology, be it AI, IoT, anything. Yeah.
Correct. Absolutely right. Yes.
So the combination of increasing availability of data and the exponential growth of computing power are causing like a massive tipping point for many businesses. So can you shed some light on what is happening and why are the leaders prepared or not prepared to embrace this?
Yes, absolutely. So what's happened is, and some of you may know, since the 1950s, AI has been a term that's been used. And if we jump forward then, 70 years, over the decades, there have been AI summers, AI winters. It's in vogue, it's not in vogue, and you're absolutely right. 10 years or more of smartphone technologies has given us, and social media has given us, this incredible amount of data, and the decreasing cost of bandwidth and all of the exponential growth, as you say, of computing power have made all of these sorts of fourth generation technologies like AI viable. And what that means is the venture capitalists come into the market, they get funding, the startups launch, and all over the different sectors, AI in marketing, AI in sales, AI in HR, AI in finance, and so on, are there now. I think part of the problem, and so there has definitely been, and I'm going to share my screen again in a moment and show you, for those that aren't familiar with it, the Gartner, I'll show you it here. Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you've seen over recent years, and this comes out in my book, so technologies become viable, okay? They're in this Gartner hype cycle of an innovation trigger. Okay, they become viable, and there's all new ones. AI will die down in interest in a few years' time, and following it will be all of these other new technologies that everyone's saying, oh, new, exciting, exciting.
Yeah.
And where we've been for a couple of years is in this peak of inflated expectation.
Hmm.
And the media haven't had loads of case studies of ROI, return on investment success stories. And so they've turned to Hollywood, Terminator, HAL, robot warfare, and loads of speculation and media hype. What I found in my book is that a lot of companies had been in that period and they were investing in AI, and then they quickly dropped into this trough of disillusionment. And what that means is, take an example from my book where a bank has started to use some conversational AI or some chatbot assistants in their bank.
Yeah.
Their staff weren't properly communicated with, and they were scared, and they were frightened it was going to take their jobs, and their clients found it gimmicky.
Yeah.
It didn't do everything they thought it could do.
Right.
It might even look human. They try to interact with it. It's very narrow AI, and they get bored and they move on. And so there have been failures, and we've been in that period too. And where we're getting to over 2 to 5 years and upwards, and I think it's really happening this year before COVID came along, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but it's that people starting to use it in a more strategic way
Yes.
rather than just buying it. And I had companies a couple of years ago, and they were being told by their CEOs, go and buy some AI. And they were doing it very tactically rather than understanding
Yeah.
what's my reason, for actually doing it. So I think that's part of the challenge that we're looking at is, how do we use it effectively, and when they do it very tactically and they don't get good results, they might abandon that. Whereas my case study I'm referring to was a bank called Saxo Bank. They did fail initially, but then they went on board and used the AI for onboarding of customers, and they used those lessons, and they then reduced the cost of the onboarding of customers and did it in record time and got great cost savings as well. So iterations, learning, but not having that blinkered view that says, it has to be right immediately. This might take a bit of time to really work, and you need to find the right business problem to solve with it.
Links back to the business case problem that we facing. Yeah. Yes.
Exactly right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, what role will AI play in overcoming the current pandemic that we are facing?
Again, another really good question. And, you know, reaching out to everybody all over the world that's listening in, here in the UK, we've got it bad, a lot of deaths, lockdown is tough. And, as a human being, I just want to reach out and hope everyone is well and their mental health is fine, and, their families are safe and well, because it's a very, very tough time. And I've been in business over 30 years. I'm 53 years old, and I've never experienced anything like it. So I empathize if you are, struggling with this. So how can AI help? Many ways. It's being used to help identify and track and forecast outbreaks. So clearly it didn't forecast this one as such, but I do know that Barack Obama 5 years ago and Bill Gates, they talked 5 years ago in their TEDx talks and in their major speeches about pandemics, being very likely and being very regular over the next 20 years. So if we'd been using the technology well, we may well have been able to predict it. So the better we can track it, the better we can predict it. So if you can analyze news reports, analyze social media, analyze government documents, the AI can learn to detect outbreaks.
Yeah.
So, you've got companies in Canada like a startup called Blue Dot that's helping organizations to track infectious diseases. And apparently they warned of the threat quite a few days before the World Health Organization actually did so. So there's that. There's diagnosing it. So you've got an AI company called InfoVision, which launched a coronavirus AI solution, and it's helping the frontline healthcare workers to detect and monitor the disease. So you've got imaging, and their job is to basically come up with solutions. So you've got a big organization like China's Alibaba, and they've built an AI diagnosis system, and they're claiming that it's 96% accurate. Who knows? I don't know if it is, but they're claiming that it is. And then another final example, processing claims. So if all of us are having to deal with all of these healthcare systems, we've got this huge administrative burden and the surge of patients, then there are organizations now that are using AI to speed up the claims and the processing and all of that interaction that happens. So there's just a few ideas of ways that AI is, machine learning are being used, to actually help with that.
Yes, that's true. It's like, you know, making things better. Like, it cannot get worse than it is right now. But this is something which we as humans cannot go out and do there, and machines can do for us. So that's a blessing that we have.
Exactly. And there's talk of robots, and when I talk about AI, I'm talking about a family of technologies under the banner of computer science, and that includes robotic process automation, conversational AI, machine learning, and many, many others.
Yes.
So if you think of AI in a war zone kind of example, where rather than a human going in and decommissioning a landmine, you can use a robot to do that. And you could argue that in the future, you might actually have some of the care being done by robots. Certain patients are having operations done by robots. Care homes in Japan are having singing and courses and care by robots. So again, robots could help maybe stop the spread of diseases in the future as well. So I think that's another good example.
Yeah, that's true. It is really wonderful on how fast and advanced these technologies are today, and we are in a good time. Not with the pandemic, and I hope it does not happen again. But
Me
still,
too.
yeah, but still with this technology, with us, I think it is helping us a lot. So
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I use the word pivot, and I don't know if you use that word much, but everyone's had to pivot to a virtual online world. You know, my husband's a teacher. I work with a lot of schools, further education colleges and universities and government, and people are, you know, we're not just talking AI and fourth generation technologies. Many companies are struggling to automate and digitize.
yes,
So what COVID-19 has done is accelerated digital transformation.
yes,
Even just using Zoom, I can't tell you how many Zoom meetings I'm having, and so many people are, how amazing is this? I've never been on Zoom. Women a lot older than me, business people. For
yes,
me, it's just kind of a natural way of working. But you know, pivoting to this new way of working as a teacher or as a pupil, as a lecturer or a student at university, you know, we're all adapting, and I think it's incredible. And
yes,
I think we're coming on to the future of work shortly. So, you know, it plays a big role in that.
yes, yes, totally. So, as you mentioned, future of work. So, what is your view on future of work, and how do you think AI would contribute to the future you envision?
Yeah, it's hard because the economies are so badly hit at the moment,
Hmm.
and how quickly AI gets adopted in different sectors and in different job functions depends on all kinds of things. So I think AI can be very cost effective. It can automate tasks. It can reduce costs and increase revenue. So, for example, um, in the past, a bank or a hospitality like a restaurant, it was a bit of guesswork. Or maybe people will understand what I mean by homogenized. So say a bank looked at its customers and only offered 3 different services, or a restaurant said, okay, a lady comes in, she's 40 to 55, and you know, she's female, she's this religion and so on, and they had a broad view of my demographic. Now they can say bank, retailer, all different people. Katie or Sua comes in on a Thursday evening. She has twins of 17. She's vegan, but her husband likes to order ribs. And they can make our experience very personalized. And the paradox, and I've got a whole chapter in my book, the paradox of artificial intelligence is that actually it's very human, and it can give you, the human agent,
Yes,
augmented intelligence to make you give such a better personalized experience,
yes,
and for you to offer that for your customers. So I think the future of work, how quickly people start to bring in robots and conversational AI, all depends on budgets and investment, but certainly small tools that aren't very expensive, that can be used in all different ways in all different job functions to automate, will really get used.
yes,
So I see the future of work in the coming year or two being the next layer of automation,
yeah,
like software as a service, like marketing automation, HR automation, sales automation. Not that much different to Hootsuite and HubSpot and cloud-based solutions, but using AI.
yes,
So it's not radical, and in a way, who cares whether it's AI or not? So I think that's going to happen, and it is already happening. I think there are statistics like 85% of our customer services will be done by conversational AI, and I do believe that.
yeah,
So 85%, the 15% left get escalated to a human agent. I
yeah,
think there's that. We will have things like Google Duplex, where we'll use voice, and we will, like we've got Siri and Cortana, and voice will be huge.
yes,
So I think we will have more and more better, more accurate, more natural conversational AI happening that makes our job easier. You know,
yes,
I so often am driving and I want to use Siri to send my mum or my dad a message, and it gets it so wrong. When I did the book and I did hundreds of recorded interviews like you're probably doing here, I had to manually write that up because at the time, and I'm only going back a year or so, there wasn't good enough voice to text transcribers. So I think the future of work will be, for a long time to come, at least a year. Google have said it, Twitter have said it, companies I work with have said it. We won't be back in the office properly at full capacity for a long, long time.
Yes.
And I think having people in shifts, fewer people in the office with more space, using robots, conversational AI, working from home, giving our planet a chance to breathe, kickstarting our green credentials, all of that will be, sounds a bit like a utopia. I think it will change the nature of culture, but it will be man and machine working in cooperation, not robot coming in taking all the jobs, but more and more technology creeping into the way that we work. That's my view of it. Walking into the reception and with biometrics, the robot at the reception desk knows who you are and it greets you, and the elevator takes you up to your floor, and the robot comes in and serves you your drinks, but you're still meeting with human beings.
Yes.
But you might have a voice activated or a virtual assistant that while you're sleeping does a load of the work for you. So I think the changing nature, it might mean universal basic income. There might be a period of underemployment for a while, but it will change. And I hope it will mean that we don't have to be tied to work and our desks 5 or 6 days a week, 8 till 6. And hopefully we can be better parents, better daughters-in-law, better members of community. That's what I'm hoping.
That is, I think, something we should look forward to also, that traditionally what companies were thinking, that work from home is not at all possible, and now I think those companies who have adopted digital transformation way back are more productive than ever, because people working from home are comfortable in their environment, and they can also work after office hours, they can take break whenever they want, and it's like productivity is
Exactly. Yeah. I think it'll be better when schools return and people don't have their children running around, and my husband's not noisy outside with the lawnmower and things like that, because sometimes it's kind of not quite as professional, but we're all in the same boat. So I think, in the interim, in the short term, it's still quite challenging, but for those of us that have gone online and we're virtual and we're having meetings, salespeople need to learn how to sell properly in a virtual environment. They need training. They need to know what are the tools they can use, because economies are contracting and businesses are losing clients, and they need to know, how do I do this? They don't jump in their car and go and meet clients. They can do it very effectively. They can do deals. They can transact, very, very effectively. But there's training needed, and I do that kind of training and consulting and so on.
Yeah. It's a challenging time for some, but I think we can prosper.
Yeah, I hope so. And then we'll have our economies spending the next decade with austerity because their debt is so high.
So, concluding, any other sound bites that you would like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, I think to your point, this is the first time in ever maybe, that everyone's in the same boat. And a point I would like to make, I'm on a government, you mentioned it in my introduction, all-party parliamentary group. So I'm on a task force looking at the enterprise adoption of AI. And you saw in my scorecard, I mentioned about the big issues, privacy, transparency. Another really important one is equality. And if done properly, and I'm thinking here geopolitics and collaborating, our scientists, our business people, our educators, collaborating with one another all over the world. Push aside, and I know it's hard, but pushing aside geographic boundaries, and all collaborating for the better good, of humanity. Because AI has the power to democratize an Oxford, a Harvard, an Ivy Leaf, whatever your equivalent in India is of the top school and college and university, that education for everybody. And people don't have to go back. People who haven't yet, I'm working with some governments around the world, not everybody has been through the full digitization phase.
Yes.
They can leapfrog.
Yes.
And so economies in India and Africa, all over the world, with the right support from their governments, their grants, and collaborating with people around the world, AI for good, to me, is a very important thing. And I'm about to launch a pilot program, which in phase 2, I will roll out to India and other countries. But in phase 1, it's in the UK, and it's about closing the skills gap in education, where the national curriculum doesn't fully explain to students, not just data scientists, they know how cool AI is and they've got the brains to do it. But what if I want to go into fashion or football or construction or the law?
Yeah.
I need to know as a student doing, we call it GCSE or A-level or a degree, I need to know how technology like AI, conversational AI, is going to change the way I do my work. So I would say to anybody listening, watching this, come and talk, because the more we can have that debate, the more we can inform our trade bodies, our politicians about the need to collaborate on this globally for the benefit of everybody, not just the top companies in the world. That's really important. So that is my, almost like my, call to arms. You need to do that. We need to do that. Don't rely on these politicians and top companies to do it for you, because they might overlook you. And there are free courses on Coursera. The University of Helsinki has got an incredible AI course that's for free and accessible to everybody. There's a lot of information out there. Be curious, keep learning. I'm 53 and I'm always learning, and you can't be in a comfort zone. You've got to step out. That's my final bit of advice.
Thank you so much. I think that was really inspiring, and the examples that you give, I think our audiences would be really happy and are going to enjoy this interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're very, very welcome. Thank you so much.
So if you have stuck around for this long, we are so excited to announce that our ebook, The Return to Normalcy, Work from Home to Return to Office, is out and available to download. So you can check the link in the description below for more details. We'll be back with a new episode with a brand new expert soon. So stay tuned. Thank you so much.
Keep safe, everybody. Thank you.